Hey there, it's Apollo again. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that there is a repository out there for the Angular client and the code for the Lambda stuff. So if you just go to bitbucket.org/Apollo Rocks, then there's a public repository. It's called To Do AWS Lambda, and you can use Git at the command line. I use source tree to do my Git command or my Git management. So go to that site, download the code, and it'll make things easier to sort of follow and see what's going on. Alright, so what we need to do is do a little bit of cleanup. I want to take all of this code and some of this code and put it in a different component, and also introduce some routing, just so that we can have a login page and then the actual to-do page. So let's start with that. The first thing I would do is just go to the Angular IO site to get information about how to create new components, and then information about how to create the routing. So let's go in and actually there's a way that you can create, where is it, tutorial, no, Angular client, Angular or ng create new component. So let's do that. I believe that command is here. Let's see. Down. ng help, ng new project, ng serve, ng generate, and the name of the component. So eventually we're going to create a login page. So let's execute these commands here. Let's see. I am here, get my to do Lambda. So change directory to to do, and then let's execute ng create login. I'm just call it login page. Oh, okay. What do I need here? ng generate. Sorry about that. And then we'll generate a page for, oh lordy, ng generate component. Okay, that makes sense. I guess you can create services too. Component login page, and then let's also do ng generate component to do page. Cool. And then if you go back to your project, it should have created some folders and components for you. So we've got the login page, we've got the component itself, it's got a template, it's component HTML, you can do its own style, it's got its own test, and the to-do page for this one, we're going to move like this component page, the logic here into the to-do page. Okay, so one of the benefits of using ng generate component is what happens at the app module level. For each component you're creating, it's going to declare it here, so that these components can be used in other parts of your app, and Angular knows about them and sort of knows how to process these template declarations. The selector for this to-do page component is app to-do page. So because we've sort of imported this component at the ng module level, when you use it in other parts of the app, it can easily know that, hey, for this particular tag or selector, I should use that particular component. So I just added this app to do page on the app component template. So if I run it, let's make sure I'm at the right folder here, ng serve. And now I can run, let's let it build, transpile, etc. package. So now when I go back to the page, you can see that this to-do page portion works there. And one thing I added is added this button to the template, the app component template, just so I can sort of get a feel for how quickly this Lambda get works, and depending on what network you're on, I'm assuming it's going to control how fast it's going to return. All right, let's do a little bit of cleanup, and we'll get rid of some of these Angular logo and some of the unnecessary stuff. Let's go and do this guy. Let's get rid of welcome to blah blah blah. Get rid of that. I added this button item here to refresh the list, and there's a click event that it's handling. But let's take all this and put it in a template for the to-do page. Get rid of that guy too. And let's go to the to-do page component template and add this back here. It's got a refresh, and we're gonna have to take some of the code from app component, and let's do we don't really need this title, but we have items, we have a constructor, we've got an init on refresh. Let's just take all that and put it into the to-do page component. It's kind of a constructor. It already implements on init, so that's good. And we'll probably have to import some of the HTTP stuff. Let's see. We'll import this guy. Oh, it's already imported it. It's right there. And then the HTTP is what we need to import. Done. I don't really think we need this module here. That's more for the beginning. And yeah, I don't know what we need that for. And then this one, we're not really implementing ng on it or on init. Get rid of that. Save it. And what else did I miss? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see if it will compile for us. It should have probably already have done it. It did something because the refresh is there. Refresh fails, so... Oh no, it didn't. It did it. So I don't know what this is. Let's kill it. And then run it again. Sometimes when you're editing, I think the caching gets thrown off a little. And you may have to clear history. Yeah. I think this component that it's seeing, it's maybe it's still in the template. Let's see. I know why. Because I haven't refreshed this one yet. Or saved it. Alright, there we go. So we've effectively moved the logic from app component to the to-do page. So that's good. Now we just need to add this login page. And so the component for this one is, well, let's add it first to our template for app component. So at some point we need to log in, and again, this is going to we're going to eventually have routing, but for now we'll just to get the Cognito stuff going, let's just add this sort of in place. Okay, and let's see the impact of that. All right, login page works, but what we really want to do with this login page is just do some simple binding here. Let's see. Let's just do a form. What do I want to do? I want to put a div. I'm not going to use Bootstrap it yet. Let's put in username, and let's do input. Type equals to text. And on the next line, do something similar. Oh, password. And then I think we need to do some binding to, let's do two-way binding, and we'll call it, what shall we call it? The username. Oh wait, dang it, how does it go? Or is it value? It's probably ng model. And good. Let's see what that looks like. It says it's undefined because we haven't defined it in login page component. So here, let's define username equals to user password. Save that. So compile it. And so we've bound our form to our component. So let's also do a on submit on login. And let's define a button in the login page. So let's do a div and define input type equals to button. I don't like the regular button because it doesn't look that great. So let's define an event, click equals to on login. So when that's clicked, then it's going to do stuff. And then let's just put a little message. Call it status. And status. Oh, I guess we need to put text here. Do I need to do... Dang it. Let's say login. Oh, it doesn't like that. I don't think that's right. I think it's value. I believe that's how it goes. Okay, cool. And status, let's give it a thing. Nope, not that one. Okay. Okay. And then when we log in, we'll just fake it. This dot status equals to logged in. And so let's click login. Blah blah blah. On login, it should do it. Oh, input type. Maybe that's the wrong thing. All right, I'm just gonna put button here. Let's see. Oh, let's do that. So hit login. Boom, you're logged in. And then what the plan is for this logic is to go in and call. Essentially, you call call the API to login/register the user, and then when it returns, set the app's token that's received from that login, and then from thenceforth set up any call. Ooh, good one. Let's see. I was gonna say like set up any call, any get call to set authorization using the app's login token. So when you call any API gateway, it's going to send that header, and the that header or that information is going to be used to allow the call to the Lambda or not. But we're going to use Cognito to set up the authorization for those specific users. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is set up the Cognito user pools and enable user logins and authentication, authorization, and add Lambda that helps us with user login, registration, etc. So to that end, I've already done a video on how to set up Cognito. So go to search for my name, Apollo Cabrera, on YouTube, and go to the playlist, and there's an AWS. Oh, let's try that again. Hi everyone, blah blah blah. Anyway, there's two videos there. One is a really short, or a short version. It's about 20 minutes, and a long version is about an hour. The short version doesn't have any audio, the long version does. So up to you on sort of which one you want to see. The short version, I think it would be good just to quickly go through it, and it's pretty visual on what you need to set up. So go through that first if you choose, and then I'll probably just do a short version, a really quick version in this current video. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our Cognito elements or components. What you need to do is go to your go to AWS and go in and find type in Cognito, and that will take you to your Cognito admin, manage your user pool, and we are going to create a user pool and call it to do user pool. Step through settings, well, I don't want to review the defaults. Let's just step through the settings and remove this email requirement and hit next step. I'll remove these for now. The password requirements, we don't need this for this demo. We'll have a minimum length of 8 days to expire. Allow users to sign themselves up. Click the next step, and we don't need to verify their email. Hit next step. Username, blah blah blah, temporary password. It's just some messaging in case we do require verification of email, and we send them the email, or we send this sort of template with the inserted data to their address. And I don't want to add tags, don't remember the user devices, and hit next step. Alright, so in here we can have triggers that occur when someone is right before they sign up, and we're going to create a Lambda function at some point just to let AWS know that they're confirmed. Pre-authentication, post-authentication, post-confirmation, those are things that you can intercept, but for now well, let's leave it all blank. Hit next and create the pool, and then we need to go and create a app client. Add an app client, just call it to do app, and generate client secret and enable sign-in API for server-based authentication. Let's check that off. That allows us to use our Lambda to authenticate somebody. Create client app, and at some point we're going to need this information when we're authenticating someone, the app client ID and app client secret. And let's do save app client changes, return to pool details. Alright, I think we've set up the pool initially, and I think that's pretty much all we need to do for the pool. Alright, next thing we need to do is create a pre-sign up Lambda function that lets AWS know that a user is auto-confirmed. So we go back to, let's go back to AWS here. Why does it keep doing that? Okay. Let's find our Lambda function again. You can type it in, or if you've used it recently, it'll go to that. So now let's create a function, and let's call it to do pre-sign up. And we're actually going to use Python. I'm going to be using some code that I picked up at AWS reInvent 2017 in the Vegas, and we'll just use an existing role, and it's just Lambda basic execution. It's not accessing anything, it's just returning an object that has autoconfirm set to true. So create function, alright, so we just need to implement code here, and if you go to the source code that's in Bitbucket, let's go to that. There's going to be a folder called Cognito, and it's going to have the pre-sign up code, and just take that and copy and paste it into the code here. Hit Control V, save it, and we can test it, and we can call this this is to do PreSign Up. And here we can create a couple of fields, username and password. Username, let's say, is Apollo, and password is Apollo123. And let's check out the code real quick just to make sure it's not really expecting anything for the event, which is what this is passing in. So I think for now let's keep it as is. Let's do create and let's run the test. And details, it just returns it returns the, it's interesting that it returns the username and password, because event, it's supposed to just return autoconfirm user true. Oh, it added a field that has autoconfirm, an object in there that has autoconfirm user is true. So it regurgitated what we had and appended a new field there. Alright, next we're going to create a Lambda function that's going to do the sign in / sign up for us, and that's actually going to add a user to Cognito. Not only will it create a Lambda function to sign up, it will also create a role that allows access, or that the Lambda is going to run as, and that role is going to have a policy that allows it to access and modify Cognito and maybe some log stuff. So let's go back to services. Actually, let's go back to functions and add or create a function. Let's call it to do sign up, and it's going to be another Python script, again from Viva Las Vegas, and we'll create a custom role. And then let's call this, create a new IAM role. The role name is going to be called to do sign up role. Let's look at the policy document, and we're going to actually edit this guy. And again, let's see, to blah 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 blah. Okay, so go to the source code again, and there is a sign up policy.json. This is what it looks like. Effect, the permission looks like this. What is the intent of the policy, or of this particular policy item? It's going to allow a certain action, and this is the object or the component within AWS, and this is the action that it's taking against that component. So allow the creation of log groups within the log, create log stream, etc. And the resource is path for this is ARN AWS logs blah blah blah. And this one allows action on Cognito identity, or the Cognito identity component, all action against this Cognito IDP sync list roles open, or on IAM list roles, etc. So let's just take this and copy and paste this to the policy that we're creating, or just replace that altogether. Alright, and let's do allow. Alright, so now we're creating this to do sign up. Choose an existing role, and it's going to be this to do sign up role, which is going to the function executes as this role, which has all those permissions against the AWS components. So let's create the function, and then here we are going to edit this. Actually, just copy this sign up function from here, and we have this is where we'll need the user pool ID and client ID, but let me select all this and paste it to here, and this is the one that's responsible for going in and
adding the user or logging him in, her in, and returning the appropriate token, and authenticating and verifying username and password. So we did that. We need to replace this guy. So we have to go back to our Cognito stuff here. So here's Cognito, manage user profile, and let's go back to the to-do user pool. Let's take a look at our app clients, show details. This app client ID is that. So we need to go back here and replace the client ID here, and use our client secret, which is here. Go and replace that, and then we need to get our user pool ID. That should be, let's see where that is. Users and groups, policies, identity. No, I don't need that. Here we go. Pool ID is this. Take that, paste it here, save it. I think that's pretty much it. Okay, and you can review this code and just really dig into it. Thank you for the game lab guys at AWS reInvent. So take that, save it. And for the test, let's see what it's expecting. It's going in and it's expecting, let's see, username, password. Oh, let's see, where's the actual handler here? Blah blah blah, get secret hash, sign up, initiate auth, Lambda handler, username, password is what it's expecting. Alright, so let's create a test, and we're going to call this to do sign up, and then the values is expecting its username. We'll make it Apollo, and initially it's the identity pool is empty. Password is Apollo123. Alright, let's create, and let's verify that in our identity pool our users and groups is empty. Refresh that. So now when we run our Lambda, we'll do a test, and then the details of this is unknown error. I've run into this before. Blah blah blah. What's the error? Fail, unknown error. Alright, I'm gonna debug.
Alright, so what we have to do is we have to go back to our user pool, and we created a Lambda function called to do PreSign Up, and what that's supposed to do is to return is to automatically auto-confirm a user so that it can be used for subsequent signups. So let's select this to do pre-sign up that we created earlier, and hit save changes. And let's run this function again, or run this test again, and we get the same error. It says user is not confirmed. Alright, so I think I know what the issue is. So the first time that we invoke this user signup function, it actually registered the user, but because we didn't have in our user pool, we didn't have this pre-sign up configured to auto-confirm the user, that it registered the user without being confirmed. So the status
of my user, if I go back to users and groups and I'll refresh this, is that this user is unconfirmed. So next time that we called it, even though we turned on the trigger to auto confirm in pre-sign up, it's not calling that anymore. It's just calling the sign up directly. So it has this unconfirmed status in the pool for the user. So it's giving us that error. It's just saying, hey, you're not confirmed. As a matter of fact, let me run that test again. And the error that we're going to get is, hey, an error occurred, blah, blah, blah. User not confirmed when calling admin authenticative operation. User is not confirmed. So if I go in here and confirm the user, let's click on that. And how can I, oh, here we go, confirm user. So next time we call this function, it should succeed, and it does. So what it returns in the Lambda is this success ID token, and it returns this token, and this token can be used in the API gateway call to a different function in order to identify that particular Cognito user to the API, and it passes that, and it authorizes calling the Lambda function. So what we'll set up next is the API to call this to do sign up, and then in the client side we'll call that API, and we'll use the token that's returned from here. Like when we do our login, let's see, where is it? Is it still here? When we do our login, we'll call that API user sign up, or to do sign up, and get a token from our username and password. And then when we do refresh, we're going to pass that token from our call to do sign up. We'll pass that in a authorization header to our API call to our get to do list API, and we'll secure that get to do list API so that you have to be you would have had to sign up, gotten a validation token in order to access that API. All right, so the next thing we should create is create an API gateway to this particular to-do sign-up Lambda function. So let's go back to services and look at API gateway. All right, so we're going to add a resource to this particular API. Create resource, and let's call it authenticate. Hit create resource here, and then we're going to create a method, and let's do a post here. Check. And then obviously we're going to also, well, we're going to have to set up the course configuration as well, but let's create a Lambda function, or we're going to map this to our Lambda function, which is in our US East 1, and it's called to do sign up. Hit save on that. Blah blah blah, invoke to do sign up, okay. And then what we can do is we can test this, and let's do, it's a post method, so we're going to give it a body. We'll use username is myself, Apollo, my password was Apollo123. So let's do a test here, and hopefully that comes back correctly. So yes, passing the username, password, Apollo123,
get a success. ID token is that. Just I know that we have to do this at some point because we're going to be accessing it with our Angular client, or to do Angular client, and we're going to need a course enabled here. So yes, yes, yes. I think everything is pretty much the same. Yes, replace existing values, and then let's go ahead and deploy the API to production. Deploy. Okay, so we'll be. I think what we'll do is we'll go to the Angular client, and we'll call this particular post and make sure that we get back a token, and it's working correctly from the client side.
All right, so we created our API to do login. So let's incorporate it into our app. We just need to go to the login page, which is, where is it? This is the Lambda one, and this is the login page. Okay, so let's go here, and we've got the inputs all set up. We've got the button login on login, so we just need to do something similar that we did. Let me close this up. Whoop, hold on. Need something similar that we did in the to-do page, which is this. We'll have a URL, we'll make a call, except we'll use a post method instead. So let's take this piece of code, and let's do, instead of saying logged in, we'll do logging in. And then we are using a different URL altogether. Let's go back to our API stages. We're using the post method, and let's log in again. Okay, so that's production. We need post, authenticate. Okay. Copy this. And this should be the method that we post to. And then we'll create a login object on the fly. So we need username and password. So let's create login equals to this. Just create an object on the fly here. Username is this dot username, and password is where is it? This dot user password. And then instead of doing a get, we'll do a put. And I'm assuming that it's going to expect an object that's going to get sent. Login. Oh, and we also need a injection of HTTP. So let's go back to here, private, and then we probably have to import that module there. That, and it's complain about HTTP, so we need this guy as well. And let's do import from here. Alright, so what's going to happen is we're going to create a put request. I don't know if I have to set the header to any so that the request type or the application type, content type is JSON or not, but let's try this and see what we get back. And then let me comment this out for now, and then do if there's an error, just to log the error. And then what we can do is also do this dot status equals to do username or password incorrect, And then we'll come back here and do this dot status equals to logged in. I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is we're going to why don't we put a token here. So this is your login token, or let's call it authentication token. And it's empty, and then we can map that to a field so we can see what it is. Maybe when we're doing this me again, and instead of items, me dot authentication token equals to parse the result body, and you should get, this is going to contain, I don't remember the, is it token? Let's say token for now. And this status is log in, but let's see if this will make a call. So let's go back to our console. Let me see where I am. I am in the to-do app, to-do folder. So let's do ng serve. That should compile, package, and start my mini web server, or Angular's mini web server. Alright, so let's go here. We already have this up. Refresh. Okay, and let's enter. Things are working. Apollo 123. Log in. Logging in. And there might be an error. Let's see what we have. Oh, method put. Let's try post instead. So back here we did, I don't know why I put post. It should be put. Should be post. Save that. Should reload everything. Oh, Apollo 123. Login. Logging in, and then the response is response status okay. ID is blah 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 blah. Let's see what this is. Oh, that's a different response. This one is failed to sign up. I don't know what that error is, but we can see what the request is going out as. You can probably look at logs too to see the requests that came into the API. Let me investigate. Alright, so I did some debugging, and if I took a look at the authenticate request, and if you look at the request itself, there is a the content type is JSON, and then the actual payload, it says username, password is enter user so somehow this is not being mapped to my my component. So let's take a look at the template and see what the issue is. HTML. It should be two-way binding here, but let's do, can we do ng model instead? I don't know if that has to be ng dash model, but let's try ng model and see what's going on. I have an error. Okay, ng model. Is it value? It should be value. Let's try it again here. Log in. Alright, I still get the same error, I'm pretty sure. Network. Authenticate. And it's sending up. Alright, so I'm going to fix that at some point, but let's move forward. I'm just going to hard code that, I think. Let's see. For now,
Alright, so we're just going to hard code this login for now, just to make sure that we have round trip going on. So Apollo 123, username is Apollo 123, is Apollo. Alright, let's try that again. Boom. And what else? Log in. And then, sure it's a different kind of error, but let's make sure that thing came back correctly. Or at least we sent it correctly. Username, password, Apollo 123. What kind of result did we get back? Response. Oh yeah, so we have ID underscore token. Right, so and the status is success. So let's add in a little bit of code to reflect that. It's ID underscore token, right? ID token, and then check to see if the status is correct. I'll just take a note of that. Let's assume, let me do this. Var JSON result equals to parse this. And do JSON result ID token, and then that should do it. Let's try this again. Not that that matters. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Cannot set property status of undefined. Oh, let's not do this. Let's do me. Me. Alright, let's do. Alright, let's do login again. So I'm logged in, and I can add the authentication token and say, yep, got the me authentication here. And so what we'll have to do next is just put this login management of the token in a service so that it can be used by other pages. So if we go into in the component to do page, we can, when we send a request at some point, we can send that URL as well. But we'll do that next. Let's do the service first. Okay, figure this out. I think what we have to do is create a request options object. So let's do this. First, let's get rid of this guy. Let's do var options equals to new request options. And then we can, oh, did it not? Let's try it again. New request options and do auto import that guy from there, and we'll provide this options into our request, and I think that should get rid of the error, but we do need to add the headers. Append, let's see, headers append, and let's give it content type is this, or what is it expecting here? Is it the name and value, which is, let's do it this way. Application JSON, and then do accept. I don't really need that because we know it's gonna return that value anyway. We just need that authorization in there. So let's do authorization. Header is this, blah blah blah. So let's make sure that we're still
This is still working. I'm going to delete this guy. Right, so the get will give us that. So let's go back to here, make sure I'm still running, back to do, and refresh this guy, and we get module not found error. Oh, okay, gotcha. Maybe I can go to this and do import request options. Is that okay? Just saying, hey, I've already declared it twice. And that's there. Let's see. Compiling, successful. No errors. Refresh this. Huh. Cannot read property append of null. And because new request option, let's do that. And is it still compiling? Options equals to new. Oh, it doesn't have a header. So why don't we create the header? Options dot headers equals to new headers. And let's not auto import that. Last time we did. Yeah, let's not import it from here, so we'll be able to find it. Headers. Compiling. Compiled successfully. Cool. So now let's do refresh. And if we look at the network stuff, let me clear this. We'll call it again, refresh. And let's take a look at the request. And the headers, authority, method, options. What are we sending here? There's really nothing in the content of it, but it's going to go to prod to do items. Method is options. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking at this one, get. This one should have request header. Authorization doesn't really have any. Yeah, authorization is empty. Not sure what why this authority thing is there, but we're gonna use. Let's do this. Let's log in, and actually we don't. That's hard coded. Just log in, clear this, and then do a refresh, and then this should have the authorization header, and that's our token. So what we can do is we can set up our API gateway. So when it's linked to a particular Lambda function, when you call that API gateway, it can use an authorizer and use our Cognito as an authorizer. And if it sees this token in the header, we can specify the authorization header. It can decide whether that particular user is authorized to call that API gateway or not. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is go to our API gateway, and in our API, our to-do API, click on authorizers and create a new authorizer. We'll call this to-do Cognito authorizer. We don't have to call it authorizer, I guess, but let's say it's Cognito, and then the Cognito pool is to-do user pool, and it's called, what is it called? Authorization, and hit create. And authorizers enable authorizer must be less than. Oh, okay, so no spaces. So to do Cognito, got it. Create. Alright, so now we go to our resources, and come on, resources. And all these will be wide open, or the authenticate post is going to be wide open, but our get is going to be secured. click on your get method there, click on method requests, and let's change this authorization to, I'll have to refresh to pick up our new authorization. So let's do that again. Click on method request and do, there we go, Cognito, to do Cognito, and hit check. So now if we try to go back to this guy and try to execute, let me actually do this first. I'll publish this, deploy API, and deploy to production, hit deploy, and then let's go to this particular method in our stages and just open this up in a new tab. And if we take a look at it, we should get, okay, this is not action. Okay, ID is that name. It shouldn't have done it because it's supposed to be secure. Let's check it again. Get, let's like look at resource again. Get to do, and it should use to do Cognito. I shouldn't have anything in the header. So let's try that again. Stages, production, get, open a new page, and let's do, there we go, message unauthorized. Yeah, that was weird. So now if we go back to our API, or to our Angular application, right, let's refresh this guy. There shouldn't be any. Go to network and do a refresh. Actually, let's do a refresh. So to do items, it's going to give you a what's the response? That's the request, that's the response, and says, hey, message unauthorized. So let's log in first and then do refresh again, and then I should get something. There it is. So now I've received a token from this authenticate, and we're saving it in our login service. Let's see, the response is here, and we receive the token, put it in the login service. When we do a requester to do item, we pass in the authorization header, we give it the token that we got from the previous login request. So that's how you incorporate authentication and authorization into your to-do app. And it's pretty straightforward, just a lot of stuff to set up. Hopefully there's some DevOps stuff that we can leverage at some point to sort of help setting up all of the various components, the API gateway, the Lambda functions, the code for that, just automatically deploy all that stuff. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. I'll do another section of just summarizing everything that's been done up to this point. Alright, let's summarize what we did for this particular project, or for this particular part. We did all this for part 1. For part 2, we went in and created a login page. And then after we created a login page, we created a Cognito user pool. And then we added some functions to Lambda to sign up and sign in users. Sign in users. And then we created some services that actually, or we created some functionality to call HTTP calls to sign in, and we also added an authorizer to our API, and then use that authorizer for doing the to-do list. So what we ended up creating is we have our to-do app that allows you to view the list. We don't have a to-do or edit, but we do have a login. So again, adding the add to do, it's sort of cookie cutter kind of deal after you've set up the basic architecture. And we have an Angular application with a project. We created an API gateway that talked to a couple of Lambda functions, and we have a Lambda project that allows us to incorporate some modules that lets us talk to MongoDB. We created a Cognito pool, and those Lambda function is there to help facilitate signing up, signing in, and I think that's pretty much it. So I'll just walk through the actual pieces here. We have a to-do app. To-do, we have a login page that lets us log into via login using our API that sort of uses Cognito to get to do authentication and return a token. We have a to-do page. When we go and get that data, we apply our token that we receive from our login, and then on the Lambdas themselves, we manually uploaded this PreSign Up that just automatically confirms a user when he signs up. We have the actual sign up that goes and authenticates and returns a token back to the client. We zipped all this up into various, let's see, sign up we didn't have to zip up, but we do have a function get, where is it, app.js. We have a function or a Lambda function that goes and connects to our MongoDB that we created and returns from the to-do collection somewhere. Collection name is to-do. And then some of the pieces in AWS. Let's take a look at that. We have our API gateway. They're called resources, and we created, or we have a to-do API. Then we created some resources, authenticate and to-do. Authenticate is pretty wide open. It has a post method that goes and does a sign up for us. And then we have this to-do items resource that has a get that is secured or authorized via our Cognito pool. And then let's take a look at our user pool. We created a to-do user pool. We have myself as a new user, and then we also have one thing that we did here is authorizers. We did that, or we configured this to use or to allow usage of the Cognito pool for our APIs. Although we still have to go back to each individual method to authorize or secure each of those API calls. Then we also have Lambda functions here, and they're pretty straightforward. One of the things that so we have a to-do sign up that does automatic. Let's wait for it to load, but it does automatic auto confirm. So when one of the triggers that we can add to Cognito is this to do. It's not to do sign up, but the other one, which is functions to do pre-sign up. Let's see if I can load the code. There we go. The only thing it does is it goes in and sets auto confirm for whatever user is being signed up. And then for our other function, sign up, we sort of reviewed that a little bit in the project. So what else is there? We have these to-do get items. What's of note here is it's uploaded as a zip file. There's AWS functions for Lambda that you can use to upload to a particular name. But the important part of this is this ignore event loop.
if you look at this, it just sets the callback waits for empty event loop. Otherwise, it'll just sit there and sort of freeze up. So the pieces for the pieces I think are pretty straightforward, but it just takes a little bit to sort of set everything up. Again, I think this is where DevOps would help. We can auto deploy and create these Cognito identity pools and the Lambda functions, and setting up authorization on various things. So that might be a good video to sort of go over and see what kind of dev tool or DevOps tools that we can use to make setting all this up a little bit easier. Thank you for watching. Leave any comments if you have any questions in what you've seen. Thank you.